I often reflect back on the last several years how my father has continued to teach me and drag me out of the deception. It has been an incredible journey, each day full of more truth and increased understanding, especially these last couple of years and even more so the last couple of months. He led me through the enemy camps to see how deceitful the enemy is and to see how deep his deception runs. I would not have chosen to go into the enemy camps if I had known all of what is true. But looking back, it was necessary in order for me to perceive how Satan literally deceived the world and why people remain in his captivity and why he was allowed the power to deceive in the first place. If you do not want to consider the possibility that this deception could include you, your pride will block you from seeing what is true. It's been just over 2 months since my father led me to start to post some videos sharing what he is giving me, and today is number 60. Time is certainly flying by. In one of the early videos, I discussed the subject of bearing the mark of our Creator. The name of that video was called The Mark. I did not get into great detail of what the mark of the beast is because I was still receiving additional understanding. Satan has placed many counterfeits to the mark, and people have all sorts of opinions, whether it is Sunday worship, as the Seventh-day Adventists claim, or the Vera chip, or I've even heard a clever argument that it's the Social Security system. One thing is for sure, whatever is not the truth is a smokescreen to hide the truth and deceive people, and they might remain bearing the mark. Let's consider the Vera chip. Revelation 13, and the likeness or the resemblance of the beast causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell except he that has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. From what I have heard, the Vera chip certainly fits the description as far as the right hand and the forehead. It also fits that a new world order might require this chip for identification. Therefore, no man would be able to buy or sell without it. I've even been told that this chip contains the barcode with the number 666 in it. It looks like a pretty good match, but let's consider why those who receive the mark are destroyed. Why would an identity chip be grounds for their destruction? The next verse is the beginning of chapter 14, explaining those who possess a different mark, the mark of their Creator, clothed in white, clothed in His righteousness. They have His name written in their foreheads. In Revelation 14:1, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written in their foreheads. And I like the sound of this mark better. Here are some of the other characteristics of this group. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins, and they are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goes. These were redeemed from among men, being the firstfruits unto Elohim and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of Elohim. In verse 12, here is the endurance of this group of saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yeshua. It's key to catch this. They are referenced to as virgins and are not defiled with women. This is contrasting another group who follow the false doctrines and teachings of men. Most think today that they are looking for truth while they continue to defile themselves daily by feeding on a continued diet of all sorts of false teachings. They are focused on everything but the truth. Maybe some of them might have a truth here and there, but they keep on the back burner, keeping it lukewarm, or they build a religion around that one truth that they have. I'll give you an example. I claim to be speaking on the authority of El Shaddai. I point people to the commandments, and I have almost no one listening to what my Father is saying through me. People do not want the truth. I look at the world and what the people want to hear, and I see a healthy diet of false teachings being poured into their mouths. How can someone come out of the bondage if they are still listening to the enemy? Maybe you think that I'm listening to the enemy. Well, compare what I speak to Scripture and not to your own preconceived ideas or your own false religions, what they've taught you. Am I taking you away from the commandments or pointing you to them? After all, this is what your Creator gave you to use for a barometer of who is a false prophet or who is true. Okay, back to the chip. How does it fit with verse 9? And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends up forever and ever. And they have no rest day nor night who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever receive the mark of his name. So our Creator is going to pour out his wrath on those because they received a Vera chip. How is this worshiping the beast in his likeness or his resemblance? Please understand, I have no intention of taking this chip. It is part of man's system, but is it really what this warning is referring to? Or is it a distraction that Satan has set up that might keep you from focusing on the true mark? Revelation 16:2 tells us that the first vial is poured out on this group who bear his name and his mark. Notice in verse 11 that his mark is a mark of the beast's name, just as the mark of the saints is the mark of Elohim's name. In Revelation 15:2, we read, And I saw, as it were, a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten victory over the beast, and victory over his image, and victory over his mark, and over the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass, having the harps of Elohim. Here we read that the saints had overcome the beast and his mark. Revelations 19:20 tells us that the deceived are those who bear this mark. Another large group thinks that Sunday worship is the mark of the beast. Does this fit? Well, it does if there is an international Sunday law put in place like these groups think that there will be. But even so, even if that was to happen, it is only part of the mark because Saturday keepers are in the same deceived boat as Sunday Sabbath keepers. No, there is a mark that fits the description to a T. All we need to do is believe Scripture. Why is our Creator going to pour out his wrath on man? Is it because he took a chip, or is it because he refused his instructions? Let's look at this verse again, verse 17. And that no man might buy or sell except he that has the mark. John is saying that the person who does not have this mark will not be going to the market and trading his goods. I have addressed this subject with great fear because to be wrong on something of this magnitude has some serious consequences. To presume falsely to speak the words of the Most High has some serious warnings in Scripture, and I believe those warnings. The problem is, I also believe that he is leading me, and then I certainly fear not speaking what he is giving me as well. This verse is referring to a specific time period, and it is not Sunday. If you understand that there are only two marks that we can bear in our foreheads, then it makes understanding the mark of the beast a simple matter. The mark in our forehead is referring to what we think is true or what we believe, and the mark in our right hand is a symbolism for what we practice or what we live out. It's the belief that we practice. We either walk in agreement with our Creator and bear his name, or we walk in agreement with Satan and bear his name. The mark of the beast is lawlessness. Satan is a liar and the father of all lies. He represents all that is false. A relationship with our Creator apart from his laws and his instructions is not possible. This lawlessness is the mark of a man or men who reject their Creator's mark. A couple of weeks ago, I was led to do a video discussing the seventh year Sabbath. I was led to declare that the year 5771, or the year that we're about ready to enter into, was to be a seventh year Sabbath to the land. This is going to prove to be a test for all. Will they listen to their Creator's prophet, or will they reject him as they have rejected his other prophets, including his son? As I said, I make this announcement with great fear of being wrong, but I certainly fear not hearkening unto my Father more, and he has made this clear to me. The difficulty for me accepting this was, according to all that I have been given to understand as far as what year we are in now, if we counted from year number 1, from when the children of Israel crossed the Jordan, and with 50-year continuous cycles, the next Jubilee year would be the year 2028, making the next seventh year Sabbath to be in 2013, or the year 5773. He has told me to not use this continuous cycle, but rather to use the 6,000 years of man and the day of creation of man as the beginning of the count. Most will scoff at this. Each of you will have to determine whether he has placed me before him and mankind or not. I speak his truth, and I speak his truth on his authority. As I have stated before, I do not know who the other one that's standing before him and man is. The Sabbath year will begin on either April 5th or April 6th of this year, depending on the new moons. I will continue to ask for more understanding of the details surrounding the Sabbath years, but this much I know. It is for all to observe if they want to obey him. It is being given at this time as a test to determine a people to live into a new era of time. The word for land in the phrase Sabbath of the land, or Sabbath to the land, is the Hebrew word eretz, and means either the earth or a particular land or nation, or the ground or a people. And I'll give you just a few of the many verses where it refers to a people. In Genesis 6, the earth also was corrupt before Elohim, and the earth was filled with violence. And Elohim looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt. For all flesh had corrupted his ways, Elohim's ways upon the earth. But the earth, the ground itself is not corrupt, it's the people in it. Genesis 11, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. So it was a people that were of one language. In Deuteronomy 32, give ear, O you nations, and I will speak. And hear, O earth. It's the people that need to hear the words of my mouth, he says. In Psalms 33, let all the earth fear Yahweh. Can the ground or can a particular country fear? No, he's talking about the people. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. In 2 Samuel, and David built there an altar unto Yahweh and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. So Yahweh interceded for the land, for the people of the land, and the plague was stayed from Israel. The year ahead of us is a Sabbath rest to those who want to obey him and be his people. He has either given this through me or not. I am either crazy or being instructed by Yahweh Elohim. The scoffers will come out in groves, I am sure, and that is fine. It is what it is. I do not even know how this message will go out into the world yet. Maybe it will not until after the destruction begins, but I am asking each of you to forward this video to all you know, and let each be the judge for themselves, just as I've asked each of you to sound the trumpet and warn the people of the coming destruction if you see it coming. We need to tell the people that they are deceived and speak the truth and let them choose life or choose death. More of the instructions for observing this Sabbath as the Sabbath year will be given as we go forward, but one thing is for sure, you will need to put your trust in your Creator for him to bring you through it. It is most certainly a non-work year. As I said in the segment discussing this Sabbath a couple of weeks ago, we will reach a point soon enough where most will not be working anyway. This is why your decision needs to be firm in your mind, knowing that if you had work in front of you that you would choose to hold your right hand from it. Compare all that will say that I am false to whether they have the commandments or not, and whether they teach them or not. I want to also make sure that you understand choosing to observe this Sabbath year does not mean that you do not have the mark of the beast, because the mark of the beast is all lawlessness. You will need to let the blood of his Son cleanse you, and let your Maker write his laws in your inward parts. This is the new covenant that he is offering. I will close this today with rereading the description of those who bear the mark of their Creator, and a description that Ezekiel gave of this group in Revelation 14. And here is the endurance of these saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yeshua. In Ezekiel 9, and Yahweh said to him, go through the midst of the city and through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all of the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And to the others that don't have this mark but have the other mark, go you after him through the city, and smite, and let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity.